Good morning, good evening, good everything in between, wherever you are, and welcome to the podcast, episode 8. We took a little break there, but we are happy to be back with you covering the Pacific League. I am your host, the ever so loquacious and bodacious Jim Mobernicki, and I am joined today by my co-host, Gabe Lerman. How you doing, Gabe?
Resting the vocal cords. We just did a midnight matinee last weekend. We got another one coming up this weekend. So tonight's beverage of choice is decaf tea.
Ooh, very nice. And as always, we are also joined by our other co-host, the ever so fantastic Michael Beasley. How you doing, Mike?
Doing fine. I'm also looking forward to the midnight matinee. If you hear anything in the background, we're currently in like day 5 of severe thunderstorms.
Yeah, the weather's been crazy lately. I got caught in a brutal thunderstorm in my night in Toronto being on the street. That was quite the incident. And they keep saying we're getting thunderstorms here, but they people have been saying there's parts of the island that just get torrential downpours, but where I am, it's dry as a bone. It's really weird.
Hmm.
And so I guess that brings us over to like we said, we took the week off last week because the Pacific League was sort of in a bit of a lull there, but we are back and we are in the post interleague now. We're back to normal Pacific League play. And what did you guys think about the interleague? Were there any teams that surprised you with their performance, kind of good or bad?
The Tigers surprised me with how poorly they played through interleague. I mean, they let the Bay Stars close a 6-game gap, and now they're basically running neck and neck through the other league pennant. So, bit disappointing if you're a Tigers fan, but for someone who just likes watching the chaos, more.
I was pretty impressed with how the Hawks played. I still think they won. I don't care what the official standing says. I don't know how that tiebreaker works. To me, the Hawks were the winners, and the Marines kind of faltered a lot more than I thought they would. But it is what it is. What did you think, Mike?
I was kind of surprised by the fighters. They've moved into fourth place. I mean, they've been there for a while, but they definitely have a shot at entering A class now. Like it's not doesn't seem as far away as it did before. I mean, there's still another whole half the season to go, but it was pretty interesting to see.
What caught my eye from the Fighters' 10-8 interleague record, their ERA was only 2.24. They're not just good with the offense, they're excellent at run prevention now for the last month. So I don't know if it's just the three aces are finally all rounding into form. Hiromi Ito picked up a win earlier today. I'll get into that later in the round the horn, but something's going on in Hokkaido. It's fun. Maybe they can close that 6-game gap. Might be tricky considering they also have played 6 more games than the Marines.
Yeah, I noticed a weird thing with looking at the standings. It seems the Fighters have played the most games out of anyone by like a weirdly wide margin.
Look at who have played the most games. Oryx with 69, nice. The
Nice.
Fighters with 70, the Lions with 68. What do all three of those teams have in common? Lids on their ballparks.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, do we have any other headlines we want to get to, Gabe?
Yes, I do. We actually have another trade. It's rare that we have more than one before the deadline and before the All-Star game, but we have a second one, and it involves the Pacific League sending some guys over to the other league. The Hokkaido Nipponham Fighters have sent their catcher, one of their third-string catcher, Shingo Usami, and a left-handed pitcher, Koki Saito, to the Dragons for right-handed reliever Takumi Yamamoto and depth catcher Yuya Gunji. The main pieces are Usami and Yamamoto. The Fighters definitely have depth at backstop with new acquisition from the Buffaloes Torai Fushimi and foreign stud Ariel Martinez, who I think is from the Dragons as well. So they've got their tandem pretty much locked in, and they always are looking for more pitching. Takumi Yamamoto has a 4.25 ERA over 72 games at the Top Flight Club with the Dragons, albeit with a 1.5 whip. We'll see if Big Boss Shinjo and his boys can work some magic with them. Interesting also to notice that Saito now has his third team in the last half season. Last year he was with Oryx, now he's gone to Nipponham, and now to Chunichi. I also am excited to see that the Niigata Albirex, a team in one of the independent leagues, are making a bid to be one of the 2 expansion teams in the farm league for NPB. Earlier this season, NPB announced that they would be adding 2 additional teams at the only official minor league level the league has. And if it's one of those is in Niigata, that's a brand new market that could become NPB quality in the future.
Huh, that's interesting. So would the teams in theory would they be like contracted to be farm teams to other teams too, or would they be independent minor teams?
I understand that they would be independent minor teams. I think it could, in theory, be similar to what the CPBL in Taiwan has done, where new expansion teams join at the minor league level for a season or two. Then they create their major league roster to join the full team. The Weichuan Dragons and the TSG Hawks are both examples of that process. Not saying the Niigata Albirex are getting promoted to NPB, but that is how I understand it. And it's worth pointing out, like, whenever we say the farm league, unlike the majors where there's a whole pyramid, there's only one league. There's the NPB second league, or the farm league. There's the Western Sub League, which is the Tigers, Buffaloes, Hawks, Carp, and Dragons farm clubs. And there's the Eastern League, which is the other 7 teams. And yes, it is a 7-5 split. It's lopsided because of where teams are located. So, to avoid any weird scheduling hiccups, teams will play interleague there more frequently. They'll even play industrial teams or independent league teams. And that's also how you hear the Giants and the Hawks, who have 3rd and even 4th level teams. That's who they're playing against, those lower tier independent clubs. The only official farm league is that one level. And when it goes to 14 teams, ideally it'll be 7-7. So that way the scheduling is a little less of a migraine inducer.
Okay, that's actually really cool. And I'm wondering, what other city do you think could get like an NPB team? I know we have Niigata already as like a suggestion. Where else do you think they might go?
The clear request from the NPB punditry is Naha in Okinawa. Yes, it'd be a long haul flight. Yes, that probably means it's in the Pacific League, but they're playing games there on the regular, and the stadium is relatively new and can hold 30,000 people. That's admittedly not saying much. There's a lot of ballparks in Japan that can hold 30,000 people that aren't home to an NPB team. I also could see a club in another of the Tokyo suburbs, maybe the Hitachi or Ibaraki area, or if we want to get weird, maybe the Shizuoka region. That's one of the ballparks, Kusanagi Stadium, that Babe Ruth attended during his barnstorming tour back in the 20s and 30s. So old ballpark, but they can at least still hold games. And of course, I can't forget the Isle of Shikoku. Matsuyama is across the bay from from Hiroshima, and could easily have an NPB team in its modern stadium. So I think if you're going to want to rake them, Niigata, Matsuyama on Shikoku, Okinawa, the field.
Okay, very cool. And Mike, for your headline?
I have 2 things today. This is a bit sadder piece of news. In memorial, send our condolences to the family of Tatsuki Morimoto, who passed away on the 24th from heart failure. He was not a professional player, but he was important to professional baseball. He was a high school and college ace in the 1950s. He formed a battery at college with Hall of Fame manager Toshiharu Ueda. After he graduated from Kansai University, he spent time working at a department store company. And then later he was invited to return at his high school as the manager and director of the baseball team, where he worked until 2009, while also running a batting cage, working his own family business and what have you. He also managed the city's local baseball stadium. In 2010, he moved to powerhouse Osaka Toen, and over his long career at the high school level, he's actually managed several NPB players, many of whom are retired now, but still playing is Takashi Ogino for Chiba Lotte. He was one of his students.
Wow.
So that's
Okay.
what, over 50 years of contributing to Japanese baseball at the high school level.
And Japanese baseball starts and ends at the high school level. There are a number of documentaries out there about the summer tournament, Koshien. It's such a big deal that it boots the professional team out of Koshien Stadium, why it was built in the first place anyway. Take a look at and see if you can find Koshien Field of Dreams out there, complete with a Shohei Ohtani cameo. I highly recommend it.
So rest in peace, Tatsuyuki Morimoto.
For fans of history and foreign players, Boomer Wells, not the Yankee Boomer Wells, will be throwing out the first pitch at Kyocera Dome on August 3rd. Before the game, Wells will be conducting a meet and greet event for fans where he'll be signing autographs, talking to people, and just hanging out. And then he'll watch the game from the first base side. And I think you can get special seats, like tickets to sit with him. It's his first time back in Japan since, I believe, 2011 or 2012. If you're unaware, he played with Hankyu from 1983 to 1991, and then later with the Fukuoka Daiei Hawks in 1992. He became the first foreign player to win the Triple Crown in 1984, leading the league with a 355 average, 37 home runs, and 130 runs batted in. And of course, he was also named the MVP that year.
It's good to see foreign players coming back to Japan to, bask in the glory of their previous exploits. We've seen finally some foreign batters get elected to the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame this offseason with Randy Bass and Alex Ramirez. Good to see Boomer Wells starting to get some recognition as well. That said, Tuffy Rhodes. I hang my hat on Tuffy Rhodes.
Justice for Tuffy Rhodes. And now just a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, my name's Shane, and I swear, I'm a real consumer, just like you. So I just replaced all my expensive shorts with...
What are you doing in here? I thought I threw you out already.
I gotta go, bye.
How do they keep getting in here? That's the third advertiser I've thrown out today. When you subscribe to Pacific League TV, there's no ads. Nothing in between innings, nothing for a pitching change. You get to see all the action on the field. And of course, you also get full archives going back to 2011. All the baseball you could ever want to watch, and nobody trying to convince you to buy some clothing brand you've never heard of. 1450 yen per month. That's like $10 in today's exchange rate. And you get all that and no ads. Okay, but for real, who's letting these guys in here? Jim? Gabe? Is it any of you? Well, it's not me.
Every week around here, we like to go around the horn and take an in-depth look at all the teams individually from top to bottom in the standings. And this week, we're going to start with the league-leading Oryx Buffaloes. Take it away, Gabe.
We're back on top. Back on top. Yes. I mean, yeah, it's a dead heat tie, and the Hawks have games in hand. But whatever. I'll take it as long as I can. The Buffaloes are 2-2 since restarting from interleague. Tomoya Mori rescued his closer from a late blown save with a walk-off home run earlier today for one of those 2 wins. That was the first sayonara home run from a Buffaloes catcher in 13 years, given that their previous catchers were Torai Fushimi and Kenya Wakatsuki, more defense-minded, not exactly known for swinging a big stick. Yeah, kind of tracks.
I mean, that was a fantastic home run. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, just absolutely tattooed.
If you're listening to this, go check out the video. He mashes that thing out to win the game. Absolute wonder shot.
The manager of the team, Satoshi Nakajima, returned to the bench on June 23rd after his brief illness. If you caught the midnight matinee last weekend, you'll notice he was behind the bench. Good to have him back and healthy for the rest of the season. As of the official Pacific League Twitter, as of June 25th, 3 Buffaloes are in the top 4 in batting with runners in scoring position. Mori with a 373, Keita Nakagawa, the center fielder, with a 328, and breakout star Yuma Tongu, the first baseman, with a 314. Tongu also leads the Pacific League in batting average. Of course, the guy with the best batting average with runners in scoring position is Hawk Kensuke Kondo, which also tracks.
And that brings us over to the SoftBank Hawks. And Kensuke Kondo is, of course, part of the reason they're being so successful. Now, since the end of interleague play, they're 2-2. Not too bad, including a nice series win over the Buffaloes before I would say, a surprise loss to the Eagles the other day, getting held to only 1 run by Masahiro Tanaka. But other than that, things are looking really good for the Hawks. They have their former 2-pronged attack has evolved into a 3-pronged attack, with Akira Nakamura getting in on the action a lot lately, now leading the team with a 297 average. Other than that, the pitching has also been doing fantastic. Shout out to Kohei Arihara, who outdueled the great Yoshinobu Yamamoto last week, going 8 innings and giving up only 3 hits while striking out 6. And also, as always, a big shout out to the best not middle reliever, what do you call him? Setup man in the league, Livan Moinello, who picked up another 1 inning and 3 strikeout performance the other day. When him and Roberto Osuna come in, it's just lights out. You have no chance of winning. That's the best 1-2 bullpen punch in the league right now. And I think, again, with the offense and the way those guys are pitching, I think the Hawks are just so primed to make a deep run in the playoffs this year.
Basically, if you can't get the lead in the first 7 innings, might as well just hang up the cleats and hit
you're
the
in
showers.
Trouble. Big trouble. And that brings us over to the 3rd place, Lotte Marines. Michael, how you doing there?
Hearing 3rd place stings quite a bit.
Well, it's better than 4th.
Was knocked around a bit in interleague. They're helping to right the ship with a return to league play. I was kind of thinking with how they performed at the interleague level, would that be a hint at, like, if they made it to the Japan series, how well would they play against a Central League team? Didn't seem like they were doing too well. Sasaki watch. Sasaki pitched this morning, actually, against Oryx star Hiroya Miyagi. Great game. Lotte lost 2-1. Sasaki 5 hits, 1 walk, 10 Ks. As you said earlier, they lost on a walk-off bomb that was completely destroyed. like absolutely decimated. I mean, if you're going to lose in a walk off, I guess that's one way to do it. Rather than like, it's better than a walk off walk or a walk off hit by pitch.
Well, for sure.
This is your reminder to enjoy as much Roki Sasaki pitching as you can, because it's not often someone like him comes along and you don't know how much longer he's going to be here. Also, obligatory Polanco home run counter. He still has 8.
Speaking of teams that are picking up home runs, I think that gets us over to the Nippon Ham Fighters. Gabe, back to you.
Yep. And the Fighters have been on a hot streak like we talked about. They reeled off 5 in a row to conclude Interleague, then dropped 2 in a row and got back with a win earlier today in Okinawa. That's technically Seibu territory, and the Lions are hosting a 2-game set there. The other one will be going later today. Neat little trivia tidbit, Fighter starter Hiromi Ito became the first pitcher born in Hokkaido to win a game in Okinawa. Ito even acknowledged the trivia in his hero interview today, saying he spotted it on Twitter and that gave him some extra motivation to put up the numbers he did. This was an absolute pitcher duel, by the way. Take a look at the box score if you can. Hiromi Ito, 7 innings pitched, 9 Ks, only the 1 earned run on 6 hits. His opponent, the converted reliever Kaima Taira, and also 7 innings pitched, 2 walks, 5 hits, 11 strikeouts. But he hung one to Chusei Manami in the top of the 7th, and that's how you get your 2-1 final score. Also, foreign pitcher news, James Marvel was signed by the Fighters back on June 18th. Marvel is a former Pirates, Phillies, and Rangers player who was in AAA the last 3 seasons. He's currently getting acclimated to the new game over in the Eastern League, which is where the Kamagaya Fighters play, the minor league club for Hokkaido Nippon Ham. And speaking of the farm team, the less we say about Connor Menezes' start there, the better. Let's just ignore the fact that it was 2 grand slams in only getting 1 out for 13 earned runs total. Ooh. Playing in Japan does require adjustments, and I think that's why he's down there to make those adjustments. That's one thing I think the Fighters are starting to bump up against is the foreign player cap. You got Alcantara, you got Hansen, you got Ariel Martinez. Where's the pitching? I think Brian Rodriguez would be the one pitcher, but ideally they'd like to get some more help there and start doing that carousel of calling guys up, sending guys down, especially for starting pitchers. You'd only miss 1 start within that 10-day mandatory wait period before you get returned to the major league club.
Quick question. I think I just did some quick math. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I would love if you guys could help. Is 13 earned runs over 1 out a ERA of 351? Does that sound right?
It's a lot.
That's one heck of an ERA. That's almost impressive, really, if you think about it. There's a record that if he were to retire now, I don't think anyone's ever going to beat that record. So,
well, ideally, Menez bounces back. I mean, that's the whole intent.
Right, that would be ideal. And so I think that brings us over to the Seibu Lions, who've crawled their way out of the depths of the basement of the Pacific League. And they've been doing pretty good this week, going 3-1. Not only winning games, but winning close games. It seems like they're finally finding their heart. They're finding their groove. They are putting together wins in those close games that they were losing a lot earlier in the season. And speaking of heart, big man Takaya Nakamura is back from injury and working his way back into form, picking up a big-time 3 RBI performance against the Eagles earlier today. And the pitching's been a lot stronger lately, with the previously aforementioned Tara. I always get them mixed up.
They're 2 different guys. Kaima Taira.
Yeah, I think I messed up writing that down earlier. And he did give up that home run earlier, but he's otherwise been doing pretty great. Picked up 11 strikeouts the other day, or was that earlier today? Anyway, in any case. And also Kona Takahashi shut down the Eagles for 8 innings of 4-hit ball the other day. Looks like the Lions might be figuring out their groove again. I don't know if they can catch up to Nippon Ham, but I think they should be able to stay ahead of the bottom team in the Pacific League, the Rakuten Golden Eagles. And Michael, that brings us back to you.
So if you'll remember, I don't remember what episode it was. I think it was Interleague started. The manager and GM of Rakuten declared that their goal during Interleague was to use this time to catch up in the standings, and then openly stated that he felt that the team could not beat Pacific League teams. Any of you guys remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, ultimately, they also cannot beat Central League teams.
So who does that leave? Okay.
Oh, hey, maybe they can start playing the farm teams.
Get Albrecht on the phone. I want him to hear this. 11 games back of first. They are 4-6 in their last 10, 27-38. Last place. However, this is a bit of a lengthy one, so I hope you'll stick with me here. I saw an interesting article on Yahoo discussing the possibility of trading Tanaka, Asamura, Norimoto, and Matsui to begin a rebuild. And the author noted that something like that is unheard of in NPB because you don't do that style of trading with your players whose contracts are running out. In the majors, that's common.
I think there's an element of always wanting to try best for your team. No one ever wants to admit defeat and do that kind of a fire sale. It's always, nibbling around the edges. Very few. I remember reading a pundit on this saying, NPB GMs don't want to be seen as making a mistake with a big swing deal, which is why it's not as common here. I mean, I can respect that. Nobody wants to watch a tanking club. I respect the fact that every single team in NPB sets out the goal of winning the pennant at the start of the season, regardless of whether they make it or not.
I think that's a fun idea, though. I'd like to see a big trade like that with that many pieces moving around. I think Yokohama definitely comes out really ahead on that. But, that could be really helpful for Rakuten, too. I don't know.
The author of the article did touch on all of that, saying that it's just it really just he felt that it does not seem possible. It was a Yahoo Sports Navi article, and he did propose on the second page of his article the way he would do it if he was in charge, and I thought it was kind of interesting. He said one trade he would make would be Norimoto to SoftBank for Richard Tsunagawa and Rei Takahashi. Reasoning, there will be less of an outcry if they trade Norimoto because they're not trading Masahiro Tanaka. His words, not mine. Norimoto has 2 years remaining on a 7-year deal, and Richard has powered waiting to be unlocked. That's like what it said in the article, and I agree with that. I've seen him, on the farm team. I've seen him when he's been called up. I've seen him play in the Asian Winter League a couple years ago in Taiwan. So maybe a change of pace would be good for him. And then Rei Takahashi, because he's a bullpen arm and he's also a submarine pitcher. So that's probably a decent thing to have in your bullpen. One thing was Yuki Matsui to Yokohama for Keito Mori. Matsui's in the final year of a contract, and the Yokohama pitcher has closer, Yasuaki Yamazaki, has apparently been unstable this year, and they feel they could get a good return there, and they have a pretty good need at short, according to the article. And Mori has just not been clicking for the Bay Stars on the top level. He's been fine on the farm team, and they feel that a change of pace there would be able to work wonders for him. And then Hideto Asamura to Lotte for Taiga Hirasawa and Ikuya Hinmai, because he feels that Asamura has a lot of power, obviously, that Lotte, as we've joked about repeatedly, does not have. And in this scenario, Asamura becomes a full-time first base power hitter for Lotte because Shogo Nakamura is firmly entrenched at second. He's not moving, and I think he recently signed an extension. And they didn't really specify anything about this one, but Hiroki Shimauchi to Oryx for Atsuya Okita or Yuta Kuroki, simply citing Rakuten needs pitching. I thought that was an interesting write-up about how you would do an MLB-style trade deadline.
So, Jimbo, did you ever go on HF boards for like hockey fandom and hear some of the trades that people were proposing there?
No, never that specifically, but I'm well aware of the sort of general practice of such a thing.
Okay, this to me gives off the same kind of vibes. I mean, some of them kind of make sense. If anyone could afford the remaining 2 years of Norimoto's deal, it is definitely the Hawks because they've got the SoftBank money backing them and they are not afraid of spending money. See Kondo and Yanagita and how they kept Kodai Senga basically in golden handcuffs. I'm just not sure that Tsunagawa will be able to uncork anything in the Rakuten organization that he can't get in SoftBank because, again, this is the team of the 2010s. That's what they do. They develop incredible hitters. Yuki Yanagita was a development prospect. So I can see the appeal. I'm not sure they'd get those pieces. Keito Mori, I have a soft spot for because he was big in the out of the park baseball game that I used to play. He was a phenom at shortstop. I wonder if that means that the Eagles would give up on Hiroto Kobukata or Tsuyoshi Yamasaki at shortstop and move them elsewhere. I know they've tried Kobukata out and left for some reason. Yuki Matsui, I know he wants to go to the majors. So if he's traded, will his destination team let him? The Shimauchi deal, I honestly am not sure that really provides value because your outfield is already Sugimoto Nakagawa Chano. Does Shimauchi replace Chano? Does he take away DH at bats from Mori? Not seeing the appeal there. The only one that makes sense is Asamura to Lotte. I think if Asamuda can somehow complete the goal of all 6 PL teams in his career, he's already got 2. That would be a good start.
That'd be an interesting career milestone to have. I'd be interested to see Matsui go to another team just because with him, probably going to the major soon, maybe, it's kind of like one of those things like a player running out of their contract. You kind of get like a weird haul for them. But I mean, if the Bay Stars kind of want to strike while the iron is hot, I could say that definitely improving their team. So maybe.
All right. So the example I can give is Hirokazu Sawamura, who was traded from the Giants to the Marines for the playoff drive, September 8th, 2020, no less. And he finished out the 2020 season with the Marines, signed with the Red Sox for 2 years, and then came back to the Marines specifically. So I'm trying to figure out what was the return for Hirokazu Sawamura back to the Giants. That would give an idea of maybe what the market is for a Yuki Matsui.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Trade discussions always remind me of when you see the New York media and they post potential Mets or Yankees trades, and it's always them getting Ohtani for like some random A-ball guy in the Yankees organization or something like that. You guys ever see that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen that when I went to
here's
New
a
York
trade
too.
the Mets can do, and it's just like no one's making that trade. No,
but
you're not
listen, it
getting
would make
Ohtani
the
for
Mets
that.
a lot better, all right?
Oh, the Mets.
The Mets.
I love the Mets. Got a cheer for the Mets. Let's go, Mets.
Oh, now I'm sad. I'm cheering for the Mets. I got.
Why is it got to be the Mets? Okay, enough of the major league players catching strays, okay?
So I think
You
that'll
can
bring
always
us
throw
over
strays
to
at the Mets.
Well, yeah, I mean they deserve it, and that brings us over to ad break 2. Take a listen.
So, you want to watch Pacific League games, but can't get up early during the week,
I work from home.
or stay up late enough on the weekends.
I have a life, you weirdos.
Not to worry, we've got you covered. FTF Sports broadcasts a game of the day with English commentary, Tuesdays through Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Check your set-top box channel list or visit ftfsports.com for streaming options. With FTF, the Pacific League is finally on your schedule.
And coming back from that, speaking of stateside, do you guys have any how people are doing stateside to update us on?
Ohtani hit a home run like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was going to say Shohei Ohtani is pitching today. He hit his 27th home run of the season. He leads all Angels in categories in every single batting and pitching stat except for saves.
Because it's the only one he's not allowed to get.
For now.
One day, we'll let him play the entire game. We'll figure out a way to put him in every position, and we'll see what real baseball is supposed to be. God, he's amazing.
Yeah, he is. At this point, I don't think I've got any updates on anyone else.
And that brings us over to a couple of milestones. Gabe, what do you have today?
I've got a trio of milestones. First off, bonsai and congratulations to Lions rookie Takuya Hiruma, who hit his first MNPB home run earlier today. Woo! Hiruma is a first-round draft pick from the Lions. I think he's an infielder. 2 days ago, he hit his first NPB home run. So off to a good start and joining the Lions lumber crew. Among those lumber crew, Jimbo, you mentioned Takeya Nakamura with a 3 RBI game back on June 23rd. That moved him into 14th all-time in NPB history with 1,321 career RBIs. The guy he passed, the legendary Giant player, the legendary man with the red bat, the god of batting, Tetsuharu Kawakami. This guy was O before O became O.
Wow, that's cool. I'm going to look into that guy. I never heard of that before.
Elite company. And speaking of congratulations and bonsais, Marines closer Naoya Masuda hit 200 NPB saves back on June 16th during Interleague, in between our most recent podcasts. He only needs 50 more to get into the Meikyukai, the Golden Players Hall of Fame, upon his retirement. And he's only 33, so that's entirely doable. He is the 10th player in NPB to get 200 saves in the league, and the second Lotte player to do it after Masahide Kobayashi. Can you two name some of the other Pacific Leaguers who've gotten to that level of saves? One of whom I actually called out on a podcast earlier this season.
Hirano?
Yep, Yoshihisa Hirano's one of them.
I definitely don't have the other one, so I concede to Mike. He wins.
Yeah, so there's actually 2 others, one of which we've already talked about on this episode.
Ishii?
Nope. Yuki Matsui's already over
Oh,
200.
right.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
really?
so
Wow.
silly. Yeah, he got that earlier this season. I'm an idiot.
Oh,
And of course, we can't talk about Pacific League closers without the career Pacific League record holder, the king of closers, Dennis Sarfate.
Dennis Servate. And so I think that brings us over to not quite a fan question of the day, but one I was thinking of. We remember we were talking last time about the how we felt about the pitch clock and the the things like that and the runner. I was thinking, what if there were any sort of wild rule changes you guys want to implement? What would you want to try? Do you guys have anything for this? Because I've got a few. I think about this all the time.
The one that leaps out to me is no warm-up pitches when you're all coming out of the bullpen and you're standing on the mound. You already warmed up in the bullpen, get on the mound and throw. None of that.
Okay, that's decent. You have anything, Mike?
not particularly. I kind of agreed with it at the time when it was presented to me, but somebody had the idea years ago that if a game enters extra innings, your roster is reset. Instead of having the imaginary man, you could just have all your substitutions back or something. I don't really know how I feel about that now, but I mean, it could work. Might be better than the imaginary guy on second.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it is definitely better than the imaginary guy on second. That's interesting. Okay, so I've got three that I think are ranging in how wildly they change the game. But tell me what you guys think of them. One, I like things that let stadiums feel unique and custom, and you can play with the rules a little bit and how you want to present your ball club. I think teams should be able to make the pitching mound whatever size they want. Let some teams raise it, let some teams lower it. No uniformity. Let the pitching mound be its own unique part of the stadium.
No, that is literally a step too far.
I think you're
I
asking
mean,
for some hamstrings to get ripped off the bone.
yeah, like pitchers already have issues keeping their elbow ligaments intact. Now you want to attack their knees?
No, hey, you can lower the pitching mound then. Keep them safe. But then we're gonna have more offense. Ooh.
Lower it in between innings.
Ooh,
Put it on a
ching.
hydraulic thing that changes every single inning. Now we're just getting into Blurns ball, man.
No mound. Mound is gone.
I
considered no mound.
I mean, it's enough that we have different wall angles and shapes, because in other sports you don't get to dictate the field dimensions. That's something distinctly baseball.
That's cool.
That's enough though. Just the wall.
Okay, so now this one. The Ashes is on right now, which is a big cricket series. So I'm watching a lot of that. And something I like about cricket is that basically kind of everyone has to pitch at some point. Not quite. There are some people who just bat, but you have like the England's Derek Jeter, Joe Root also bowls sometimes. And so I think if we limited bullpens to you could only select one or two guys to represent the bullpen for the whole game, and you had to sometimes use position players, I think that'd be a lot of fun. And you'd get position players trying to sometimes get better at pitching. And you'd have some guys who would increase their value by being like, hey, I'm a pretty good shortstop, but I'm also a very solid pitcher you could use in the seventh inning. So I think that'd be kind of interesting. What do you guys think about that one?
Again, all I'm hearing is the sound effect from Command and Conquer. Unit lost. More Tommy Johns. Nah, I think I know every bullpen looks like it's made up of everyone throwing 95 in a slider, but there's an element of spreading the workload that is necessary. This isn't the 60s and 50s anymore. You can't count on your starter going 7 innings every 5 and then handing it over to another guy for the last 2.
No, but that's okay. So hand it over to your second baseman, then hand it over to your center fielder, and then you can use a bullpen guy. Anyway, I think it's fun. And so now for my most radical change, if you can believe I have one more radical than those, no more batting lineups. Every batter gets 3 bats to start the game. You can pick and choose when you want them. If you got a bad batter, send him out 3 times at the beginning. Just let him get his at-bats out of the way. We don't need to worry about that. And keep your best players maybe for later in the game, or maybe you want to use them early. And every time someone gets a hit or a walk, they earn themselves another at-bat you can use next time.
Okay, so basically every batter has 3 outs assigned just to them.
Yeah.
And then it's how you send them up to the line. So like if Ohtani keeps hitting dingers, you could just keep trotting him out until he makes like an out and then reserve him for another time.
Yeah.
All right, I think I can one up you here.
Okay, let's see it.
All right. So now you have 2 lineups, okay? You have the offensive lineup, you follow me?
Ooh.
Then you have the defensive lineup. Where it's
Mike, that's football.
Players. Hold on. And then they don't bat anymore. Now they have an oval shaped ball, okay? And they throw it.
Okay.
And then sometimes they kick, mainly they throw it. And then you're allowed to tackle the pitcher sometimes.
Okay, all right.
Mike-
I'm
Also,
into
the field is
this.
square.
Mike,
Okay.
the Rogers Center just got converted, so I can't handle any more hand egg games, and now you want to put it back there?
All right, I'll throw a bone to Canada. You only get 3 things that I'm going to call downs. I just invented it. Instead of 4, you get 3. We can all agree here.
Okay.
And we've made the
Look,
ball
Also,
bigger.
it's called the Gray Bowl instead of the Super Bowl or the Grey Cup. So I mean, I'll do
This is getting far too silly. I'm going to call an end to the podcast right now. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTubey stuff. Jimbo, Mike, and I will be back with another episode next week now that we're back to a regular schedule. And let's not forget, the All-Star Game's coming up. Stay tuned, everyone, and take care.
There we go. Good job. That was a great ending. Viva la revolution!
Y'all are weirdos.
Please.